Living as an expat in Tunisia? Are you kidding me? Tunisia? When you search for the best countries to live or retire comfortably, Tunisia doesn't come up on the top of the list, does it? But when we came to visit Tunisia for a month and a half, we couldn't believe how many expats and foreign retirees were here. They chose to come live here because they wanted to. But the longer we spent in Tunisia, the more we began to understand why. In this video, I'm going to share with you 8 things that Tunisia has to offer the foreign expat, but also 4 things that could make life here challenging. The expat communities. Our first stop in Tunisia was the capital of Tunis, and as soon as we arrived in the neighborhood where our Airbnb was located, we knew right away that this wasn't the type of neighborhood that most Tunisians would be able to afford. It is much nicer than the neighborhood where we live as expats in Turkey. The neighborhood is called 𝗟𝗄𝗃 and is actually a suburb about a half-an-hour drive outside of Tunis. We walked around the residential areas quite a lot when we were there, and we noticed that the residents were a mix of wealthier Tunisian people and foreigners. We heard Arabic, French, English, Italian, Spanish, and German. Many of these expats were families with children and seemed like they were maybe diplomats or business people, not really retired people. Our suspicion that this is a more expensive area of Tunis was confirmed when we saw some of the prices for real estate rentals. But I'll talk more about prices in more typical yet still comfortable neighborhoods in Tunisia later in this video. Another place where we noticed a sizable expat community was in Hammamet, just an hour south of Tunis. These expats seem to be more retirement age. We noticed some of them walking their dogs on the beach, hanging out along the promenade, and some of them were regular customers of the restaurant where we ate. We could tell by the way they interacted with the staff. After our time in Tunis, we headed south to Monastir, and again were surprised by the number of expats and foreigners here. The people. Wow, wow, wow. The people here in Tunisia are some of the friendliest we have encountered. And the best example I can give you is having so many people help us at the 𝗟𝗄𝗃 stations. A 𝗟𝗄𝗃 is a shared taxi, more frequented by locals than by tourists. And the 𝗟𝗃 stations are quite chaotic and can be difficult for foreigners to navigate. Well, let me tell you, we were offered so much help whenever we needed it. And also, once we were in the grocery store buying bread, the price on the label on the bread was 0.95 dinar, but at the register it rang up a little over 1 dinar. I'm not sure why it was more expensive than the label, but the Tunisian lady in line behind us paid the difference for us. Thank you and 𝗟𝗄𝗃 to the Tunisian people for being so hospitable and welcoming. The natural beauty. I am going to start this section of the video talking about the desert because this is a feature that you won't find in many other countries. And it is, in my opinion, the best thing to see in Tunisia. Tunisia is home to some of the world's most spectacular sand dunes, one of the world's most dynamic lakes, meaning that it almost completely dries out in the summer and expands exponentially when it rains. It's the location for some of the world's most beautiful desert oases, and it's where you'll find some of the galaxy's most interesting spaceports. Let's head to the beaches next, which are also stunning. And the great thing about the beaches is that you have plenty to choose from. In Tunis, you are never too far away from a beach, either heading to the north part of the city to experience 𝗟𝗄𝗃 Beach, or heading south of the city to the plush and upscale beaches around Hammamet. And going further down the coast, you'll find beaches at 𝗟𝗄𝗃, Monastir, and 𝗟𝗶𝘃. Transportation. Our experience with the transportation in Tunisia had its ups and downs. In Tunis, we used the tram system, which would get the job done, usually. There were 2 times when we were on a tram that broke down for 10 or 15 minutes, and sometimes they were so crowded that people would hang outside the doors. We used the 𝗟𝗄𝗃 minivans to get to some of the sites around Tunis, and also to get to some of the smaller towns and villages around the country. As I mentioned earlier, the stations were complicated, but the people were very helpful, and we quickly figured it out, and getting around became a breeze. The minivans themselves had various levels of comfort, but never crammed in like sardines. And there are no schedules, you just show up at the station, which can be both a benefit and a drawback. The benefit being that you don't have to buy tickets in advance. The downside being that if you miss the last luauge to a smaller village, then you might have to wait until the next day. Overall, we got to everywhere we needed to go, and that's what matters the most, right? The food. I could make a whole video just about Tunisian food that would probably be an hour-long video, but to keep it simple, I'm going to tell you my favorite and Emily's favorite meal that we had here in Tunisia. And if you have been watching our videos and know anything about me, then you already know my favorite is going to be a dessert. This particular dessert consists of bread dough on the outside, usually fried or baked, and various fillings on the inside, which could be dates, figs, or almond paste. The next food item I'm going to talk about is couscous, which not only is Emily's favorite Tunisian dish, but also one of the most common foods here. And you might be saying, yeah, I've had couscous before, what's the big deal? But it is so much better here than it is in other parts of the world where we've had it. All of the food we had in Tunisia was fabulous, and if we were living here long term, I think we would have to grow a second stomach so that we could truly enjoy all of the cuisine Tunisia has to offer. The cost of living. Foreign currencies can go a long way here in Tunisia, making it one of the most affordable countries in the world. Prices for housing, even in mid-range and comfortable areas of Tunis, are quite reasonable. More than reasonable, I would say, with prices for rent for a small but modern apartment as low as $300 or $400 per month. Although for a Tunisian person trying to earn a living, these prices are quite high, and trying to live at a level of comfort that most people watching this video would consider acceptable can be challenging, if not unattainable. The meal you are seeing here cost $5 total for both plates of food, and the 3-hour luauge journey from Tunis to Monastir costs less than $5 per ticket. Now, I should warn you that not everything here in Tunisia is inexpensive, especially for anything that might be imported from outside the country. But overall, we estimate the cost of living here in Tunisia to be about 40% of what it costs to live in the United States, and we would expect to spend something in the $1,100 to $1,300 range per month to meet our personal comfort level. I'll put our sample budget in the description below. Quick-fire categories. Alright, let's go over everything else, starting with the weather. As you can see here, the winters are fairly mild. Summers are hot, especially as you work your way south. But overall, we think the weather is pleasant for most of the year. The next pro is safety. We walked around many places and always felt safe. Healthcare is a con. Remember, this is a developing country, and for major health issues, it might be better to head across to the other side of the Mediterranean. Communication is a con for us because we don't speak French or Arabic, and English is not widely spoken here with the exception of tourist areas. What about immigration? It can be difficult to find information about the immigration process, but from what we understand, only a rental agreement is required. No minimum income or financial statements are needed. Internet speeds can require some patience, but adequate most of the time. Garbage collection can be lacking in some areas. The produce in supermarkets? Yeah, not all that great in our experience, and we had better luck finding quality fruits and vegetables at the community markets and from people selling their produce out of the back of their truck. We bought the biggest oranges we have ever seen anywhere in the world. It didn't taste that great, but it was huge. So, could Emily and I live comfortably here in Tunisia? I honestly and truly believe that we could at this stage of our lives, but there would be some challenges. Nevertheless, we enjoyed our time here so much, and I think the next time we come back, we'll be ready for an even longer stay. This playlist has pro and con videos for many other countries around the world. Here is our video about our best and worst experiences in Tunisia. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future content. Thanks for traveling with us.